Hello everyone, I am Vikram. Welcome to my channel Tech Reflections. Here I will be posting lectures on various tech topics. To start with, I have picked Excel and later on I'll add more tech areas to it. Today, the lecture we would be having is on pivot tables and it will cover how do we create pivot tables and some of the basic features of the pivot table. So let's get started. Before starting to create a pivot table, let's first understand what is a pivot table and how it is going to help us. Pivot table is actually a tool in Excel which helps us organize, summarize, and present our data in a form which can be used for further data analysis and reporting primarily. So we are starting with now how to create a pivot table. The first step is that we will go to the insert menu at the top, click on the pivot table, and as you can see, if we have already selected any one of the cell within the data, this create pivot dialog box will automatically pick the range which includes all the data in our sheet, which is okay for us. But in some case, if you have clicked outside this data, then you need to select all the data that you want on the basis of which the pivot table should be created. So here it is already selected. So let's move to the next step. The next step here is whether this pivot table should be created on a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. So it's always advisable to click it on a new, create it on a new worksheet. So in our case, new worksheet is selected. So we click on OK. So a new sheet gets created. And on the left hand side you will see a pivot table area, and on the right hand side you will see a field list. Okay, and now this field list will have different areas which we need to understand. First of all, it has a search bar. So what is the search bar for? This is for searching all the fields within the below pane, where you can see that we have all the column names which were there in our data, all are listed here. Right now we have a small list of column names, so it's fine. We don't need to search, we can directly use these columns. But imagine a scenario when we have a huge Excel sheet which might have the table columns in like 50s or 60s or more than that. Then in that case it is difficult to scroll through all the columns to find a column which we are looking for. So how to use this search is you can type in whatever you want to search. Let's say in our case we try unit, and it will list down all the columns which has this particular word units within it. In our case we don't need that, so let's get back to the original set. So this is what we see now. This is a whole list of the columns. Let's consider few scenarios here just to understand the pivot table in a better way. Let's take the first scenario to be that we need to know how many units of pen are sold in each location by the salesman. Okay, so how do we create a table on this particular scenario? So what we want to see here is that we need to see the data as per location and the salesman. So this will give us an idea that we want these two fields as a row or the column, whichever can take whichever area. That's all up to you. So first of all, let's take location and put it in the rows. Okay, so all the locations are now shown in the pivot table in rows. Okay, and now we want to see the salesman. Now salesman, let's see, we want to see it in columns. So we'll drag it to the columns. We can interchange them, like we can move salesman to the rows and location to the column, whatever way you want to see the data. Okay, and now what else we want to know? We want to know units of pen sold. Okay, units. Now there is a field called units, but this time we want units for only pen. Okay, so units will go to the values field, where it will tell me like how many units are sold by these salesmen for any particular location. And as we want data to be only for pen, or maybe we can say ball pen in our case, so we'll have items, and I'll move this item to filter. Okay, now in your pivot table you can see at the top of the pivot table there is a filter got added. Right now the filter is for item and all is selected. So in the below pivot table you see all the orders of all the items, but we want it to be only for ball pens. We click on the drop down, select ball pen, click OK, and this is the data that we want. So now there are total four salesmen who have sold orders for pens, and these are in three areas: Delhi, Jaipur, and Mumbai. So total 278 orders, 278 units are sold for ball pen. This is the first scenario. Let's consider the second scenario. How many orders were executed by each salesman for item notebook? Okay, so in this case we want salesman first of all. So we already have salesman in the rows, that should be fine. And location, we are not interested in location which was there in column, so we can click on location and click on remove field, so that is removed. And this data we want on the basis of notebook. So filter is already on item, so but we just want to change the value from ball pen to notebook. Okay, so there are total 201 units of notebook sold by these three salesmen. Is that what all we want? No. Our question was that we want not the units, we want actually the orders. How many orders of notebook were executed by the salesman? So what change we need to do here is that we need to remove this sum of units, because we are not interested in units here. So how? There's one more way of removing it. You can select it and drag it anywhere outside and it will get removed. So in our case we need order ID. So we click on the order ID, we'll drag it here, and now it shows the count of orders. So now in our pivot table we have all the orders that were executed by the salesman for the item notebook. So this is what we wanted in our final result set. So this is the output we have got. Let's consider one more scenario, and this time we will be interested in total amount of sales executed by salesman. Okay, so again in the row we'll keep salesman, and this time we are interested in total amount of sale. So amount of sale would be in the total field. So we don't need order ID, we'll click on it, we'll remove from the values, and we'll move total to the values. It already automatically takes it as a sum. So this time we have salesmen, all the salesmen who are ordering notebook, who are executing orders with notebook, and this is the total amount of sales they have done. But we are not interested in notebook only, we are interested in whole all the orders. So in that case we'll just remove this filter, and you'll see that all the salesmen and their amount of sales they have done is displayed in our this pivot table. So this way, as you see, that we have considered three different scenarios and modified our pivot table on the basis of that. This is the way we create the pivot tables, and these pivot tables were created on a range of data. But most of the times our data is very dynamic. So in this case also, let's say as we were considering a sales data for an organization, so let's say if we have some additional sales and additional orders, so let's say we have three more orders created, and now we want these three orders to be added to our full list of orders, and paste this data into our original data just below the row number 44. So now our data is till row 47. How to get this data added to our pivot table. So this is our pivot table. Directly it will not show up even after, let's say if we go to analyze and refresh, this will not be added to this data. Okay, so how to get it added? First of all, let's change this pivot in such a way that we can see that difference straight away. So what we can do, we can just put items here, and let's say if you want to see the items in the columns and in sum total, in place of sum total, let's have order IDs. So now we can see there are total 43 orders, and these are the items that were ordered as per the salesman. So as the new data is added, so what we need to do here is that we'll go back to the pivot table, click anywhere in the pivot table, click on analysis, analyze menu option, change data source. In the change data source, this will show the earlier data that we have selected, that is up till row 44, H44, but now our data is still 47, row 47, so we'll just change 44 to 47 and okay. And you can see we have this additional records, additional orders there, and total number of orders now is 46. So this is one way of creating a pivot table. There is another way of creating a pivot table. Let's see that way also. So for that, let's come back to our original data and copy from 1 to row number 44. That was our original data. We'll just copy from here and create a new sheet and paste this data. So now, before directly going and creating a pivot table as we did earlier, we first change this data into a table. And what's the benefit of that? I'll share that with you. For creating a table out of it, you just click anywhere within the data, and from the keyboard you can press Ctrl plus T, and you'll get a create table dialog box. Same thing you can do from insert menu also. Click on insert, then table, and the same create table dialog box will be opening. So now it has automatically picked up the whole range of the data which we already have, and so we just directly click on OK. So the left hand side, the data gets converted into a table, and which is visible, as we can see that the alternate rows are colored now. At the top, the header is not visible because of the color combination, so we'll change it. We'll change the font color to automatic, and now it's okay. So, and now we repeat the same steps for creating a pivot table. So we'll go into the insert, click on pivot table, and now because this we have our cursor within this data, so automatically this table range is picked up, and you see this time it's not showing us the range, it's showing the table 1. So table 1 is the name of the table in which our current data is there. So we'll just move ahead, we'll not change anything. This will help us in reducing our effort while adding new data to it. Okay, how? Let's see. Again, the second thing is that new worksheet. We'll go with the new worksheet, click on OK. Okay, so now the new worksheet is open here. Again, let's have a pivot table created here. Let's say again we want to see the salesman in the rows and the items in the column and the order ID in the value. So this table gets created. Right now it shows 43 records or 43 orders. Now the same thing, this additional data for 3 records. Let's say if we need to add this into our new data table. If we add it here, the first benefit of having a table is that whenever you'll add new rows to it, it will automatically get converted into a table. So you don't need to do any extra step for that. And when you come back to your pivot table, you just need to go to analyze and click on refresh all, and automatically that the new 3 records, new 3 orders get added to your pivot table. And here you can see the compass box. This is the new item that was there in the orders, and total 3 orders were there, and total order is increased to 46. So this way Just by creating a table, whenever we'll just add the data to the existing table, the pivot table gets refreshed. Just by click on a refresh, it gets the new, picks up the new data. So with this, I hope you must have a good idea about the pivot tables, how they are created, and how you can use them with your data. So I suggest go ahead and use this pivot table for your data, and come and let me know if you need any further help on this. You can comment on the in the comment box. So this is all what we planned for today's session, and in the future lectures I will explore more advanced concepts of pivot table. Bye and thanks for watching.